Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode. This is episode 2 of the Pole Position podcast for the 2021 F1 season. And we are literally doing the recording just after watching the first race at Bahrain. Lewis Hamilton wins the race after Max Verstappen started on pole. Valtteri Bottas finishes in P3, but he does get the fastest lap of the race. Jamie, my guest Jamie Davies is here with me. He was host of the race watch along that we did on Let's Talk Sport. So if you're coming across and listening to the podcast in the weeks from the watch along, thank you very much for watching us on the stream. And please subscribe because we will be doing future races on Jamie's Let's Talk Sport channel as well. But yeah, Jamie, great to have you on the podcast again. What was your initial thoughts of the first race of the season in Bahrain?
I enjoyed it. I think when it's the first race of the season, you're trying to get used to some of the new drivers, some of the new transfers that have happened, and you're just trying to remember some of the new cars as well with the new racing paints that they've got on and all that. So I always find the opening race always interesting just to see how crap some of these cars are and how good some of these cars are. And I think we've learned that the true colours of Haas have definitely come out, where I think they could be the rock bottom team of the season, and they may just get that famous wooden spoon of 0 points at the end of the season. But of course, there's still 22 races to go. There's a lot of races to go. I don't know if I'd be that motivated if I was a driver to think, one down, 22 to go. We've got a long year coming up.
Yeah, it's a long year, but it's a weird 3-week gap now until the next race. We've got 23 races, but it's quite a long gap until the second race. We'll we'll go through the order and we'll talk about the race. I'm guessing everybody else will talk about Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen duel. We'll obviously go on to that. But if we start from the bottom and work our way back up, then we'll go on to Haas quickly then. Nikita Mazepin, not a great debut for him, considering he lasted 2 corners after spinning off and crashing out. Not a great debut for him. Mick Schumacher did a little bit better. Obviously did finish the race, so that was obviously a bonus. He did have a spin a couple of laps later for Mazepin, but managed to keep hold of it and did finish the race, did complete, but was a lap behind. We'll just quickly go on to then what you just said about Haas. It is going to be, I think, quite a lonely race or a lonely season for them because even Williams have made improvements, haven't they? And Alfa Romeo are better than Haas. So it is very much going to be a learning curve for both young drivers in the sense that they're not going to get anywhere this season, but it's just the experience of being in F1.
I think for Mick Schumacher, it was all about just getting his foot through the door.
Yeah.
Obviously, for me, spin, as I like to call him after this weekend, from his 2 spins in qualifying. How did he spin when qualifying had finished on the first turn as well? It's like this guy's already got a theme going on here. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Twitter account named after him. But I think for Mick Schumacher's kind of gone into, in the last few years, if it was Williams, it'd be the same scenario. In a way, it's kind of like George Russell, but with George Russell, this is his 3rd season now where he will want to just get into a car that's competitive. And I guess for Williams, the plus point for them is that they may actually finish not 10th this season, which would be an improvement from the last 2 years. But yeah, I don't think Mick Schumacher will take it too hard, but I think he will probably fear that in the next few races, as you say, it could be a very quiet, boring racing for them. But again, as I say, they can't go wrong with the experience that they're getting. And in a way, I miss the partnership of Magnussen and Grosjean, just because we're guaranteed that they will go out of a race, and that could change the end of a race. So and reduce the car gaps. But no, I don't think Mick Schumacher will take it too badly. I think for him, it's just an historic weekend for him and the next chapter of his career.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's only going to get better for both drivers, really, I think, going forward. But I think, this year is definitely really one just to gain that experience of driving a Formula One car for the longest season that we've all had anyway. If we move on to Williams then, I've just had a thing pop up on the screen. Obviously, Nicholas Latifi didn't finish the race. He did 51 laps in the end, and it's come up that they had an issue with the boosting system on the car, which worsened throughout the race, meaning he didn't get the sort of full power out of the engine, as it were. So they opted to box it a few laps before the end. So that was why he was going off the boil, as it were. But in terms of the Williams, they finished I mean, it looks good for George Russell. I know it was only 14th place, but managed to finish the race and finished above Sebastian Vettel. Now, obviously, we'll go on to Sebastian Vettel maybe in a little bit. But yeah, just in terms of Williams, like you said, they're not going to be that bottom place team anymore. I think Haas, like we say, have taken that helm for the remainder of this season. Even though it's only been one race, we can probably already gather that that's going to happen. They look a bit better, but they're still not, I think, at that par of Alfa Romeo, are they? They're probably that second to last team now.
Yeah, and I think, we got to remember there's no Claire Williams anymore, so it's a different ownership with Williams, even though the name is still there. But, maybe this is... I think I remember when the deal was announced, I was kind of happy to see it. I thought, it's a shame that we've got to say goodbye to Claire Williams, who's been in the sport since she was a baby, pretty much, with her dad. And I just think you sometimes need new pair of eyes to look over the team and try and take it into a new direction, which I'm sure Claire Williams was watching the race today of interest, and even just seeing them doing a little bit better and seeing George Russell do quite well in qualifying. Let's not forget he got out of Q1, so he got into Q2 again. And I wouldn't be surprised if Russell does get some points this season.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's the case where he is going to get some points, and he's still keeping that track record of finishing ahead of his teammate in qualifying in his career at Williams. Obviously, first race he did at Mercedes, he got out qualified by Bottas, but the remainder, the rest of his Williams career, he hadn't been beaten in qualifying by a teammate yet. So Nicholas Latifi has some improvement to do. And I think he mentioned before the start of the season that qualifying was something that he needed to sort of work on, as it were, throughout this season. So yeah, it's looking better for Williams, but in terms of Alfa Romeo, they're looking better than Williams. They've taken a little bit of a step. Look more impressive in qualifying, look more impressive in testing as well, should it be. That the reliability looked good, and I think they got the most sort of laps out of the cars as well. So they finished 11th and 12th, just outside the points. Kimi Räikkönen finished ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi. Is this another car that's going to just manage to scrape the points throughout the season? There could be tracks that are maybe better for them. I think this one, like we've mentioned, is a sort of power circuit for Bahrain. So there could be other tracks that might be a little bit better for Alfa Romeo. But yeah, are they just looking at maybe getting into the points, 7th, 8th, 9th? Is that what Alfa Romeo are aiming for this season?
I'm intrigued because I mean, I know, as you mentioned, it's only the first race, but I have a feeling there could be a battle between Aston Martin and Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo. I mean, Vettel had a really bad debut for Aston Martin this weekend. Not only did he not get out of Q1, but he finished 15th. So he finished second last.
Had contact with Esteban Ocon as well, didn't he?
But this is the thing though with Vettel. He seems to not have clean overtakes anymore. He was like that when he was at Ferrari, when he would try and battle with Hamilton for the race wins and the race championships. But Hamilton always got out better and came out with a clean car, while Vettel made mistakes. We all remember Singapore with that famous crash with Raikkonen. That was Vettel's fault. In my eyes, I think Raikkonen was doing the right thing, and I think so was Verstappen. And I think with Vettel, his awareness, maybe, I hope I'm wrong, but I just have this feeling that this season might just define why Vettel and Ferrari didn't work out. We'll see. Of course, there's 22 races to go yet, but I just worry that for him, it won't look good if Lance Stroll beats him in the championship. And I think really it will just show for Aston Martin as well. Yes, you signed up a world champion, but this is a world champion from 8 years ago now. Now, in sport, especially in F1, 8 years ago, a lot can happen in 8 years, and people do forget you.
Yeah, are we like, obviously Vettel wasn't a great day at the office for him, but Stroll only managed 10th and only got like the 1 point for both drivers, as it were, and the team for the first race. Are we surprised and a little bit worried that they weren't like fighting alongside McLaren and even Ferrari in this first race, or are we going off the sense that, like we said, it's only the first race?
I think it's too hard to judge when they're a completely new team. They've also gone through a lot of changes, not only with the car, the name, new ownership as well. I get not new ownership, but new manufacturer coming in. So I think there's a lot that they had to deal with. Let's not forget as well, the season ended mid-December. So normally they'd have been packed up before the end of November, and that means an extra month off, you could say, of getting things ready for the new season. And they've only just had one testing, same amount of testing as all the other teams on the grid. So I think it's one of those where there's going to be some engineers and some principals in after this race that will look at it and just think, let's be realistic. We could be hard on ourselves, but it's only been one race, and they've got 3 weeks now until Imola to improve it. Sometimes it just takes one race to just realize where you improve. It's like that in anything with projects. If you ever need to have a few goes at it, sometimes the first go at it will certainly help you realize where the problems are. And if they can sort those problems out in the next race, then we'll probably see Aston Martin in a top 6 race. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well, hopefully we see him a little bit higher, and yeah, hopefully you are. I don't want to say you are wrong, Jamie, but hopefully in terms of what you're saying about Sebastian Vettel, hopefully he manages to sort that out, because yeah, it wasn't a great day at the office for him. Neither. Yeah, neither for Alpine either. Fernando Alonso only managed 32 laps. Not sure what the issue was. I didn't really hear during the race what the issue was for him having to retire. But also we look at Esteban Ocon as well. He only finished 13th in the Alpine Renault and was lapped. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't really a great sort of race for them. And you look at how they were making progress last year. They got a couple of podiums. I know it wasn't a great sort of trajectory that they were on, but yeah, it wasn't a great day at the office for them either, was it? And only that's the highest car finishing 13th. They've got again with Aston Martin, I've got some work to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to think of Alpine at the moment, because it's a tricky one, because I didn't rate Renault. In the 3-4 years that they've been back.
And they were just there, weren't they? They were just there. They didn't really...
It was never a threat. And you had one race when... Was it Ricciardo got podium in one race? I think it was.
Germany, Ricciardo got a podium. And there was another race that Ricciardo got a podium as well, but I can't quite remember. And then Ocon got one in Sakhir, I think.
Oh, yeah. Which, when you put it like that, it sounds like a good season, but it just feels like there was a lot of disappointing races, though. Yeah. If you add it all up, it makes the podiums look crap.
Yeah.
But people only remember the podiums. So I'm not sure. I don't get me wrong, I was a fanboy when Alonso announced his return, but is it going to be much different than his McLaren days in his second spell there? I just worry it won't be. We saw in qualifying Alonso out-qualify Ocon, but I just think Alonso was like that at McLaren as well, where he knows the circuit. He's won a few races in Bahrain. I think he's won at least twice there in Bahrain with Renault and Ferrari. So I think it's just one of those where his experience will beat Ocon from time to time, but it's whether or not the car will still do it for him on the race day. And from what we've already heard, Alonso's already causing problems in the garage because he wants a better car. And I don't blame him. If you want to become one of the best, again, you've got to have the right people. You've got to have the right tools to get the best car.
But they're saying that, but you've said this before. You know that when you're bringing in Fernando Alonso, don't you? That you're going to have that. As soon as he gets in there, he's going to want to perfect what's going on at the team.
He's exactly the same as Jose Mourinho, isn't he? Mourinho is toxic. He will share his vocals in a bad way, and it's, he's got a reputation of it. So I'm sure the team were signing up to that. I think the reason why they've got him in is because they have got someone who has that difference of Ocon and Alonso, for example. Yeah. And Ricciardo, I said in our watch along that I find Daniel Ricciardo a bit overrated. I love the driver, don't get me wrong, but I just think he'll be another one that was a few Grand Prix wins and that's it. But we'll remember him for his characteristics and his smile.
His fellow Australian Mark Webber vibes. Is he giving you off?
Yeah. It's pretty much that. And he was at Red Bull, so it all fits in.
I've just seen that Daniel Ricciardo got another third place in Imola, which
Okay.
he got one at the Eiffel Grand Prix and then one at Imola, which is the next race we're going to. So maybe Daniel Ricciardo at McLaren could do the same thing. Yeah, I'll go for better. But yeah, that's sort of Alpine. So yeah, again, they have some work to do. Now, one that disappointed me a little bit, because I'd put them on this sort of pedestal after testing and even qualifying yesterday, was AlphaTauri. Now, Pierre Gasly had I think it was after the safety car restart, lost his front wing. I think that was from contact with one of the McLarens. And then I think it must have been some floor damage in there, because he retired at the end, but managed 52 laps. But yeah, it was just seemed to be sort of trundling around alongside the Williamses and the Haases, as it were. I think he pitted about two or three times as well. So yeah, it wasn't a great day for sort of Pierre Gasly after that contact. But Yuki Tsunoda, I mean, it could have been so much more, I think, for AlphaTauri, and I think they might sort of look at that race and think they could have been better. And yeah, so he gets his first 2 points of his F1 career, Yuki Tsunoda. But qualifying yesterday, he looked good in Q1, didn't he? In Q2, it looks promising for both drivers, but Yuki Tsunoda in particular.
I think it's great to see someone just get straight in. Because
aggressive, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think that is, there's no time to spare in his eyes. I think he's just taken it on board and gone on with it, because him and Gasly could be one hell of a team this year, because the only problem is they both want a better team at some point. For Gasly, he's been there for a while and he's expected to perform better. But at this moment in time, Tsunoda's got more points than Gasly. Again, of course, easy to say it after one race, but Gasly will have to fire himself up, because who knows what this Tsunoda can do. Because I was gutted when he didn't make it into Q3. I honestly thought he was going to get it, but then it came to the end of Q2 and he was nowhere near faster than the other teams. That
I think they went on mediums, and it was a bit of a regret, and they might have just gone on softs and gambled it, shouldn't they? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like they don't last long anyway, so why didn't he just go with it?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
spoke to Perez.
But yeah, AlphaTauri looked strong over testing, and again looked good over the sort of practice and qualifying sessions. And I think it is sort of a missed opportunity for them. But like you've already mentioned at least 4 times, it's the first race out of 23. There's a lot of races still to go in this season. But a team that I thought could have done better, going the other way to a team that's to me have surprised me in terms of their overall improvement from the sort of winter period after the end of the season last year to testing to qualifying and now their first race of the year is Ferrari. I mean, 6th and 8th. Did we really think that they were going to get that come the start of the season? I mean, that's some solid points. Let me just do my maths. Is it 12 points that they had? Now for a start for Ferrari in 6th and 8th. So yeah, good start for both drivers. And yeah, good start for Ferrari. Did they surprise you like it surprised me, or did you already sort of think that they were going to be?
I thought top 10 was a must for both of them, because I think you've got to look at the other teams where I honestly think Ferrari and McLaren are going to be rivals this season for 3rd place. I think you're going to have obviously Mercedes and Red Bull at the top, but we've already seen that Bottas and Hamilton again can get podiums together quite a lot. So I'm still expecting Mercedes to win it by a margin. But Ferrari, for me, if they weren't at least going for top 10 finishes, then my God, that is embarrassing. Because if they didn't get into the top 4, at least, for the Constructors' Championship, then think about how much money they're going to miss out on. And especially during a pandemic as well, which doesn't help. And obviously, we don't have the new rules and regulations until next year. So, if you want to build this car in the future to be the winning car, you need money as well. So they need to prove themselves. But I think it's a good start. I mean, Leclerc, he could only do as much as he could do. He had a quiet race for me. Couldn't keep up with Red Bull, which just shows how much faster they are than Ferrari at the moment. And for Carlos Sainz, I mean, I just think he's made the wrong decision, to be honest. I don't know why he left McLaren, but it's so hard to say that when it's Ferrari.
He left McLaren before the dismal start to Ferrari, though, didn't he? He'd already signed before we saw how bad they were. So really, he'd only seen them in 2019 when they were a rocket ship. So he'd signed the deal and then went, "Oh God,
rocket ship's a bit of a generous comment."
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for the 2019 season, it was good, and obviously they got that reprimand by the FIA. But yeah, last year, it was a bit of a canal boat, wasn't it, in terms of really struggling to up to speed. But yeah, they have made that big improvement. I was sure that it was going to be sort of McLaren, Aston Martin, Alpine, and Ferrari. Or sort of, I didn't know where Ferrari were going to be. I thought they might be around Alpine, Aston Martin, but yeah, they have surprised me in terms of how far they've sort of jumped over the winter period. So yeah, if they can keep battling with McLaren, it will be a good battle. And we mentioned it during the live stream that it was good to see that Ferrari and McLaren, these two top teams, were sort of fighting each other for their positions. But if we go on to Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris for McLaren. Great result for Lando Norris, fourth place. Got a podium in the first race last year, so he'll be a little gutted that he didn't get a podium this time round. But 12 points for him to start with, and Daniel Ricciardo 6 points as well. So yeah, good start for the McLaren boys.
Yeah, I think for Lando Norris, he's been consistently doing that now. So we're getting used to seeing him in the top 4, top 5, aren't we? So I'd love to see him at least get 3 or 4 podiums if possible this season. And I think that would be a step up for McLaren again, where, as we mentioned the other day with Zach Brown, he's, it's that whole realistic approach of we're no longer the McLaren we used to be, which is being on top of the podium. This time we just want to at least get on the podium if we get those opportunities. And look, I'll say this now, I'll be very surprised if Red Bull, with either Perez or Verstappen, or at least with Mercedes and Bottas, for example, I wouldn't be surprised if they sometimes have races when they don't finish, because the one driver that you can rely on to finish every race this season is Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
It's so rare when you see him out of a race, and that's what just makes him so hard to beat. And I think for McLaren, they know they're at least the third best / fourth best. This weekend will tell you they could be the third best constructors if Ferrari don't improve. But I think Norris will beat Ricciardo this season. There's more firepower. I think there's more of him, more firepower. But look, this is what happens. This is his third season. The experience is building on him now, and he knows what to do in certain scenarios. I think we've got ourselves a very exciting British driver there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the both of them sort of summed it up before the start of this weekend, where they said, Daniel Ricciardo said, I've obviously got the experience of winning races in the past, but Norris has the experience of being at McLaren and having that knowledge to sort of gel together to try and make that work and both give off experience to each other in them aspects. I mean, I think Norris has to sort of come out of his shell. He had 2 great years with Carlos. I think he improved in the second year as well. But I think Daniel Ricciardo coming in, a race winner, been in top teams before, you've got to get that level up again, haven't you? And you're making that statement of him beating Ricciardo this year. That's a big statement for Lando Norris.
Yeah, and I think he has got to, because 3 years is a long time in my eyes. I think after 3 years, if you can't beat, I know Ricciardo's won races, but I think Ricciardo's not won a race since 2018. I think I might be wrong, because that's when he left Red Bull. So it makes you wonder, this is why I think Norris and Ricciardo are on the same step at the moment. And I think it's just who goes for the next step. And I think Lando Norris can beat Ricciardo, and I don't see why not. He's had enough time now to prove why McLaren have put so much faith into him from the boyhood team he's been with, just like Lewis Hamilton was with McLaren. Started out with them, and he's got to prove it.
Yeah, you're just making me have a look and see when Daniel Ricciardo's last race win was. It was Monaco. I thought it was Monaco was his last race win for Red Bull, because obviously he didn't win during the Renault period. So yeah, Monaco 2018 I think was the last time Daniel Ricciardo won a race. won a race, should I say. So yeah, good spot, Jamie. But yeah, I think that would be good if McLaren can sort of have that consistently this year. I think podiums is definitely a sort of option. I think possibly race wins as well. Like you said, it could be that Mercedes and Red Bull maybe have reliability issues, or one of them crashes out. Verstappen and Hamilton maybe have a bit of a tussle. It could be that McLaren maybe get that possibility of a race win. But let's go to the guy that we said in the last podcast hopefully would win the race. And that is your man. You were still wearing a Mexico shirt from the last podcast.
Well, hit and miss, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is Checo Perez. Now, I've just seen he did get driver of the day. And obviously, starting from the pit lane to P5, he got he got the fans' vote for driver of the day. Obviously had that reliability issue on the outlap, on the sort of formation lap, as it were, and then had to start from the pit lane. I think pit about three times at least during the race. So he had to overtake the same guys he kept overtaking the stint before. But yeah, to get to fifth place wasn't really involved in terms of the strategy, which is obviously Red Bull are looking for in the future. But a solid 10 points for him with Max Verstappen getting 18 as well. That's what they need, don't they? Red Bull need that for the constructors. They need to have two consistent drivers, really.
It's so simple what I'm going to say. Alex Albon wouldn't have done that.
No, I think Alex Albon would have finished about 8th.
Yeah, and I think that's a big difference between 5th and 8th, where it's the points difference straight away. But also, the only thing that would have completed Perez's weekend in terms of the comeback would have finished 4th. Yeah. And then at least Red Bull could have had 2 drivers in the top 4. That to me is going to be the difference between Mercedes and Red Bull this season. If it's going to be that close, you want to see at least your 2 drivers in the top 4. Yeah. Because you're going to have moments where Mercedes are going to have a good weekend and you're going to have a good weekend. But if you don't get them in the podium with both of them, at least get the 4th spot. And that will really help them going forward. So, of course, it's Mercedes 1-0 up after the first race. But I think that could have been a little bit of an equaliser if Perez had got 4th. But there's no shame, as you just say, he had to go through all that in the space of an hour and a half or something like that of how long the race was. So, yeah, I think Perez will be thrilled with that. I think Christian Horner's been shown as justified why he picked Perez. It's that whole thing of his time management skills, how he does it in the pits, and how he can just come out of nowhere and gain places that other drivers probably wouldn't have even thought of. So I'm happy for Perez. I just hope he does a little bit better in qualifying next time, because I think that's all that he could just do with improving his qualifying. His qualifying hasn't always been great.
Yeah. I think he was under
bet on a race.
Yeah, he was under pressure, wasn't he, when he had that first lap deleted in Q2?
Yeah, it didn't surprise me he didn't make Q3, because there's been a lot of times when he was at other teams in the past and he just could not get into Q3 when the practice and the car pace on the weekends would tell you've got to get Q3. Yeah. Just put in that lap. But no, I think Perez should be very happy with that. And Alex Albon was probably at the start of the weekend going excellent, after the qualifying, and now I believe he is hiding in a ditch.
He's disappeared. We'll go on to the other Red Bull driver in a moment, but we'll just cross to Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri 5.0, 4.0, I don't know where we are at the minute. Finished 37
10.0.
Yeah, he finished 37 seconds off Lewis Hamilton, got a 3rd place and got the fastest lap in the end by pitting because he was so far back, and Lando Norris was, I think, about 30 seconds away from him anyway, so it was worth going in, getting them fresh tyres to get the fastest lap point. But never really looked like he was going to challenge either Hamilton or Verstappen, did he? So it wasn't the best start for him in terms of his championship running this season.
No.
Did you see anything from him this race? I didn't, but
well, what did you see?
Well, I am a Bottas fan, but I just didn't see him. I was looking for him to just say, you know what, let's just go for it. Let's just see where we are, because I think although it's 23 races this year. Yeah, although there's 23 races this year, he needs to just, it could be my last year at Mercedes. let's just go, hell for leather, as it were. But yeah, I agree. I just don't think, even when it was Verstappen starting on pole and when they started the race again, he looked like he was more under pressure from the driver behind him than he was challenging either Verstappen or Hamilton for the race win. So yeah, it wasn't the best start for Bottas. I think it obviously helps that he gets that one extra point, because who knows, that point could be crucial at the end of the season. But yeah, I think that the less we say about Bottas, actually, the better. Really, it wasn't the best race for him. But okay, so for a while now, me and you have been waiting for a battle between Verstappen and Hamilton. How many years has this been? Okay, we did get it. It was only for about 8 laps, maybe 10, maybe, but because he was catching him down, chasing him
in the
down.
right part of the race, I thought, as well.
Yeah. So in terms of Verstappen, then with Hamilton obviously wins the race, gets the 25 points. Max Verstappen gets 18 because Bottas got the fastest lap in the end. Are we going to see a battle between Red Bull and Mercedes, but more importantly, Verstappen and Hamilton this year?
I can't give you an answer, but I just bloody hope so. because we need to see something different. And this might be Hamilton's final season in F1.
Yeah.
I think it will be. I think if he wins the championship, it's a dead cert that he's going. If he doesn't, he might stay for another year to try again, but he might not want to go into the new rules and regulations. I thought it was just nice to see in that last few laps just a little bit of, we don't know where this is going. We've had so many races over the last 8 years or so where you just don't know. Well, no, you do know who's going to win. You know who's going to win even at the halfway point. Once the pit stop parts of the race is done, you kind of know what's going to happen. And this is when F1, hopefully with the strategy of what Ross Brawn is looking into of how to make racing more exciting and closer, we'll hopefully see that a lot more next year. Verstappen had his opportunity. He took it, but sadly he had to let him through because he went off the track when the overtake. Yeah, it's a shame, and that's what I hate, because that's a natural circuit. That's actually got space on that track. Imagine Singapore, imagine Monaco, where it comes to the last lap and it's between them two. It's kind of like, well, good luck, because there's no gap. I just hope that was the preview of what's to come, and that's what people said before the first race, saying that Verstappen was going to be his main rival. And it says it all as well, because last year and the year before and the year before that, probably, it was always seen, and the posters were pretty much saying that it'd be between Bottas and Hamilton. After watching Bottas this time, I just think Bottas has proven yet again he is Rubens Barrichello 2.0.
I just think, like I said, from what you've just said, that I hope it's a thing to things to come for this season, and not just that's what you're getting. Enjoy the other 22 races. There's no more of that coming. So hopefully it's a preview of what's to come. I think you're right in terms of it was great that it was the last few. We haven't seen a race, I don't think, for the last time, unless anyone in the comments can let me know. I don't remember a race that sort of happened where they were less than a second when they crossed the line. I don't, like, in terms of the winners.
Yeah.
I don't remember a race. Whether that's happened recently, and my brain's just not
at the front.
Yeah,
not at the front. I don't think.
Obviously fighting for maybe other points below, but yeah, I'm not sure. So if anybody does know when the last one was, just let us know in the comments. But yeah, I think it was good that they had that. He was close, and obviously 3 DRS zones at Bahrain as well. So I think that was helping him catch up, as it were, at the end. But yeah, I think his tyres just gave away from him. But yeah, obviously the next race to come up is Imola. That's another track that is quite tight, and obviously you've got the runoff of gravel as well. So making a mistake, could be very costly. Whereas you look at the new circuits now, like Abu Dhabi and that, you can just run wide, and it's not really an issue, is it? But Imola is very. Yeah, Imola is a very sort of tight circuit, as it were, in terms of if you run off. You look at George Russell last year when he was warming the tyres up and he smashed into the wall, and it's them things that could cost you at a circuit like Imola. But we'll talk about that before the sort of Imola Grand Prix comes up. Hopefully, it's about 3 weeks away now, isn't it? 3 weeks time. There's quite a long gap between the next one. But yeah, just quickly, Checo Perez has been down as driver of the day. Who was your driver of the day?
To be honest, I was going to give it to Lando Norris, just because it's another consistent performance by him. But I think Perez probably does deserve it. But for me, it was Lando Norris in a non-biased way.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. So yeah, well done, Lando Norris. You've won the pole position podcast driver of the day. Like Jamie has done previously.
It's in the
post. Yeah, exactly. The trophy's in the post.
To Woking.
But yeah, so out of 10, what would you rate the first race of the season? I'm going to give it a 7. It might be quite low, but I just think in the middle of the race, it got a little bit boring. I'm not going to lie. And I was like, oh no.
The middle part was really boring.
What's going to happen? But yeah, obviously the end was a lot more exciting. So I'd say for that, I'd give it about a 7 out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 6.
Ooh.
He's gone lower.
Controversial.
I think I still enjoyed it, but if it wasn't for the ending of the race, I would have probably even given it lower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have given it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's fairly scored. Hopefully Imola can be a bit more impressive. And then we've got Portimao in Portugal as the third race as well. But I think there's a bit of a gap between that as well. I think that's around May time. So yeah, there's not a lot of racing for the first few, even though there's 23 this season. A lot's going to be happening over the summer and autumn period for Formula One. It's going to be quite tightly packed around there. But yeah, so that was the first race of the 2021 F1 season. Lewis Hamilton does come out on top. So it does look, if you're just watching and just tuning in and seeing the result, it does look like Mercedes are back, but don't worry, Max Verstappen and Red Bull look good as well. So hopefully it will be a good season in terms of rivalries. Like Jamie has mentioned, there is a watch along going on the Let's Talk Sport YouTube channel, which Jamie, I would say, is the owner of. He has been like the joint owner for a very long time. So he is the sort of head of Let's Talk Sport, as it were. We will be doing sort of race watch alongs throughout the year. Yeah, please subscribe and obviously watch them as they happen as well. But yeah, thank you very much for listening to the podcast. Jamie, thank you very much for being on again.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And yeah, please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. It does mean a lot. You know, obviously since we started at the start of this year, the subscribers have grown, and obviously people watching has grown as well, which is great. So thank you very much for tuning in. And then obviously, like I said, the podcast will be out on Apple Podcasts as well. I am looking at Spotify, but we'll see in terms of Apple and YouTube how it's sort of going and how it's developing. But yeah, please comment below. How did you think the race went if you're listening on YouTube? And yeah, like I said, please subscribe, and thank you very much for listening, and we will see you all in the next video. Thank you very much. Take care.